Hey guys! Tonight we dive into the fantastic story of a warrior woman. Not a queen, not a legend, but a real Viking shield maiden. She was fierce, battle-hardened, and feared by enemies across the North Sea. She stood for Norse toughness and strong female power. But before we jump in, take a second to like the video and subscribe, only if you genuinely enjoy what I share here. Also, please drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how many of you join from all over the world. Now dim the lights. Consider switching on a fan for a soft background hum. Let's settle in and begin tonight's journey together. You're born in the middle of a freezing winter. Of course you are. The fire is barely burning. The midwife is tipsy from honeymead. The longhouse smells like smoke, wet fur, and boiled cabbage. Your mother is lying on some wool blankets that haven't been washed since the last harvest, gripping a wooden spoon like it's a weapon. And honestly, it often is. You don't cry, you roar. The midwife jumps. Your father, who's survived 3 raids and claims to have seen a troll, looks at you and says, "She's going to be trouble." The whole village nods like it's a fact. You're a girl, which already means your future is risky. You might die young, get married off, or if you're lucky and just scary enough, you'll skip all that and earn the rare title only heard of in sagas, Shield Maiden. But you're not just any girl. You're the one who came out glaring, ready to face whatever the world throws at you. Your crib is a reused goat trough. You share it with a wool scrap, a carved owl, and maybe a spider named Hilda, who refuses to leave. There are no lullabies, just loud snoring men and someone sharpening an axe in the corner. Now and then, a dog walks by and licks your forehead. That's the Viking version of a baby monitor. 2 brothers who already smell like war, a grandmother who chats with ghosts, and an aunt who's been married 3 times, all to men who strangely died during training. You're the 4th baby girl born this year and the only one who didn't arrive screaming. You came out glaring, ready to take on the world. Your unique upbringing sets you apart, making you a character unlike any other. Your name gets picked based on 2 things: how loud you were and which ancestor hasn't had a baby named after them in a while. You end up with something like Freyas or Brynhild. That roughly means, "May the gods help anyone who insults her." You survive your first night, which is more than many can say. The fire keeps you warm. The milk is fresh. The lice show up right on time. By the end of the week, the village calls you the loud one. Someone carves you a tiny wooden dagger to chew on. You don't chew it, you practice your grip. You're 2 years old, teething, and dangerously fast. The world is now your battlefield. Your first weapon? A sheep bone. Viking childhood isn't soft. There are no stuffed animals, no pacifiers, and no safety bars. You get whatever didn't make it into the stew pot. Your favorite toy is a wooden horse with 1 leg missing and teeth marks from 3 cousins. You also have a ball made from a pig's bladder and a stick, which you use as a wand, sword, or to boss around anything smaller than you. Your playground is the muddy patch outside the longhouse. You share it with animals and future trauma. Nothing here is childproof. Everything is sharp, flammable, or edible, and sometimes all 3. Once you swallowed a fish hook. The village cheered when it came back out. The games? They're rough. Catch the chicken ends with scratches. Who can throw the rock the farthest ends with bruises. Steal the neighbor's firewood ends with awkward glances. Your favorite? Ambush your cousin. That one always ends in tears and someone yelling, "Thor's beard." Not again. You learn the social rules fast. Share food, but only after licking it first. Don't touch someone's comb. And always feed the chief's dog first, or it'll take it, along with your hand. Formal education? Not really. You learn by watching. You see your mother grinding grain and patching clothes. You see your father cleaning weapons and arguing about fish taxes. You see your older siblings fighting with sticks and showing off by lifting goats. You try it too. It doesn't go well. By the time you're 4, you can light a fire, skin a rabbit, and spot when adults are lying. You're good at sneaking and stealing honey cakes. You get caught all the time, but it only builds your character. Some kids are quiet and well-behaved. You are not one of them. You've got dirt in your hair, blood on your tunic, and pride in your little chest. Your early skills and abilities are impressive, setting you apart from your peers. Your grandmother pats your head and says, "She's got the look of a girl who will grow up to scare men." You don't understand it yet, but you like how it sounds. You're 5 years old now, and you've already learned 2 important lessons. Fire means life, and everything else is cold and loud. Your learning starts early, not in a school, but in the harsh, cold world of village life. Forget chalkboards and reading circles. Your first lesson is, don't fall in the fjord. The second, if it's steaming, don't touch it. You fail both. There's no such thing as school. You're taught through the good old Viking method, watching others doing what they do and getting yelled at by tired adults holding sharp tools. Hey guys! Tonight we dive into the fantastic story of a warrior woman. Not a queen, not a legend, but a real Viking shield maiden. She was fierce, battle-hardened, and feared by enemies across the North Sea. She stood for Norse toughness and strong female power. But before we jump in, take a second to like the video and subscribe, only if you genuinely enjoy what I share here. Also, please drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how many of you join from all over the world. Now dim the lights. Consider switching on a fan for a soft background hum. Let's settle in and begin tonight's journey together. You're born in the middle of a freezing winter. Of course you are. The fire is barely burning. The midwife is tipsy from honeymead. The longhouse smells like smoke, wet fur, and boiled cabbage. Your mother is lying on some wool blankets that haven't been washed since the last harvest, gripping a wooden spoon like it's a weapon. And honestly, it often is. You don't cry, you roar. The midwife jumps. Your father, who's survived 3 raids and claims to have seen a troll, looks at you and says, "She's going to be trouble." The whole village nods like it's a fact. You're a girl, which already means your future is risky. You might die young, get married off, or if you're lucky and just scary enough, you'll skip all that and earn the rare title only heard of in sagas, shieldmaiden. But you're not just any girl. You're the one who came out glaring, ready to face whatever the world throws at you. Your crib is a reused goat trough. You share it with a wool scrap, a carved owl, and maybe a spider named Hilda, who refuses to leave. There are no lullabies, just loud snoring men and someone sharpening an axe in the corner. Now and then, a dog walks by and licks your forehead. That's the Viking version of a baby monitor. 2 brothers who already smell like war. A grandmother who chats with ghosts. And an aunt who's been married 3 times. All to men who strangely died during training. You're the 4th baby girl born this year and the only one who didn't arrive screaming. You came out glaring, ready to take on the world. Your unique upbringing sets you apart, making you a character unlike any other. Your name gets picked based on 2 things: how loud you were and which ancestor hasn't had a baby named after them in a while. You end up with something like Freyas or Brynhild. That roughly means, "May the gods help anyone who insults her." You survive your first night, which is more than many can say. The fire keeps you warm. The milk is fresh. The lice show up right on time. By the end of the week, the village calls you the loud one. Someone carves you a tiny wooden dagger to chew on. You don't chew it, you practice your grip. You're 2 years old, teething, and dangerously fast. The world is now your battlefield. Your first weapon? A sheep bone. Viking childhood isn't soft. There are no stuffed animals, no pacifiers, and no safety bars. You get whatever didn't make it into the stew pot. Your favorite toy is a wooden horse with one leg missing and teeth marks from 3 cousins. You also have a ball made from a pig's bladder and a stick, which you use as a wand, sword, or to boss around anything smaller than you. Your playground is the muddy patch outside the longhouse. You share it with animals and future trauma. Nothing here is childproof. Everything is sharp, flammable, or edible, and sometimes all 3. Once you swallowed a fish hook. The village cheered when it came back out. The games? They're rough. Catch the chicken ends with scratches. Who can throw the rock the farthest ends with bruises. Steal the neighbor's firewood ends with awkward glances. Your favorite? Ambush your cousin. That one always ends in tears and someone yelling, "Thor's beard." Not again. You learn the social rules fast. Share food, but only after licking it first. Don't touch someone's comb. And always feed the chief's dog first, or it'll take it, along with your hand. Formal education? Not really. You learn by watching. You see your mother grinding grain and patching clothes. You see your father cleaning weapons and arguing about fish taxes. You see your older siblings fighting with sticks and showing off by lifting goats. You try it too. It doesn't go well. By the time you're 4, you can light a fire, skin a rabbit, and spot when adults are lying. You're good at sneaking and stealing honey cakes. You get caught all the time, but it only builds your character. Some kids are quiet and well-behaved. You are not one of them. You've got dirt in your hair, blood on your tunic, and pride in your little chest. Your early skills and abilities are impressive, setting you apart from your peers. Your grandmother pats your head and says, "She's got the look of a girl who will grow up to scare men." You don't understand it yet, but you like how it sounds. You're 5 years old now, and you've already learned 2 important lessons. Fire means life, and everything else is cold and loud. Your learning starts early, not in a school, but in the harsh, cold world of village life. Forget chalkboards and reading circles. Your first lesson is, don't fall in the fjord. The second, if it's steaming, don't touch it. You fail both. There's no such thing as school. You're taught through the good old Viking method, watching others doing what they do and getting yelled at by tired adults holding sharp tools. One day you block a blow, counter, and land a solid hit right in someone's ribs. They drop their weapon, mumble something about seeing stars, and stumble back. You don't celebrate. That night, you place your axe beside your bed. Not for tradition, not for show, but just in case someone mistakes you for anything other than dangerous. Your determination is a beacon of inspiration, a testament to your unwavering resilience. You're not just learning to fight. You're realizing you were meant for it. Like most bad ideas, it starts with someone talking. You're at training, axe in hand, minding your own business when a boy, too tall, too smug from a recent win, looks at you and says, "You sure you want to fight? Wouldn't want to break a nail." You don't answer, not with words. This is the moment when you begin to transform, shedding your old self and embracing the warrior within. You step into the ring, nod to the instructor, and get ready. The boy smirks. He's already half turned to his friends, one of whom mutters, "Go easy on her." You don't go easy. Your first swing is blocked. The second grazes his shoulder. The third lands in his chest with a satisfying oof, knocking the wind out of him like a startled goose. He swings wildly and misses. You duck, sweep his legs, and take him down hard into the mud, like you've been waiting for this moment. He tries to get up. You put your foot on his chest and hold it there. Silence. The boys stop laughing. The instructor clears his throat. Even the goats watching look mildly impressed. You step back, flick your braid like a banner, and walk away without a word. The boy coughs out something that might be a good match, and then limps off with bruised pride and a muddy face. Later, an elder pulls you aside. You brace for a lecture. Instead, they grunt, "Good footwork." Your mother gives you a nod. Your father raises an eyebrow, then hands you more dried fish at dinner. In Viking terms, that's a standing ovation. The boy won't look you in the eye for a week. When he finally does, it's with the same caution you'd give a bear you once accidentally poked. You've earned respect, and it's a heavy mantle to bear. That day, you learn something valuable. You don't need to shout to be heard, don't need to smile to be accepted, and don't need to apologize when someone's underestimation lands them in the mud. Victory smells like sweat, dirt, and slightly burned stew, and you'll never forget it. This victory, and the many more to come, will be a testament to your growth and resilience. There's no ceremony, no glowing symbols, no dramatic lightning bolt. Just a cracked shield, a bloody lip, and an old warrior muttering, "She's ready." You've spent years earning every bruise like a badge. Mornings start with drills. Nights end with aching muscles you didn't know you had. You can now identify injuries by feel: sprain, dull throb, bruise, sting, and the lingering sting of losing to your grandmother in a wrestling match last week. Your body has transformed, muscles honed and scars earned, into a warrior's physique. Your braid's longer now, not for fashion but function. You tie it back to keep it out of your helmet and out of reach of idiots. Some girls braid in beads. You braid in leather strips and teeth, not yours probably. Training is different now. It's no longer about swinging an axe. It's about staying calm when someone's trying to remove your head. You spar with men. They don't go easy on you. You wouldn't let them if they tried. You've learned hesitation doesn't just hurt, it costs respect. Your shield arm is stronger than your sword arm. Your hands are always wrapped in leather or covered in scabs. You don't win every match, but you never stop swinging. That's why they trust you. Then one day during a spar, your shield shatters. A clean strike from someone twice your size splits it down the middle. You toss it aside and keep going, barehanded, bleeding, and furious enough to make it enjoyable. You lose the match, but no one forgets it. That's the moment the elders start saying your name with a different tone. Not like a child who needs guidance, but like a warrior who deserves it. No one announces you're a shield maiden. But no one questions it when you step into the shield wall, either. The braid, the blood, the bruises, you earned every bit. You're no longer just learning to fight. You're the one others watch when things go wrong, waiting to see how you handle it. Then you finally make it onto a longship. And within the first hour, you regret every decision that brought you here. The deck is slick, the wind is rude, and the rowing bench is a plank built to insult your spine. You're squeezed in next to warriors who smell like old leather, stale sweat, and the crushed hopes of 3 days ago. There's no such thing as personal space. You shift, and your knee bumps someone's axe. You move again, and someone sneezes into your hair. A seagull screams overhead as if mocking every decision that led you here. Rowing isn't glorious. It's full-body punishment disguised as progress. By mid-morning, your hands are blistered. By noon, your blisters have blisters. Your palms feel like they've been scraped across a cheese grater. That means you're doing it right. There's no comfort, just more rowing. Your arms burn, your legs go numb, and your seat is damp in a way that prompts existential dread. Every stroke brings you closer to glory, and possibly a lifetime of shoulder pain. Meals are bleak. Dried fish that tastes like a boot, bread that could double as a weapon, and water that's technically water. You chew slowly and consider mutiny. At night, you curl up against the ship's side, using your shield as a blanket and your axe as a pillow. You're gently rocked to sleep by the waves, the snoring of nearby warriors, and the gnawing suspicion that this whole voyage was planned by someone who hates happiness. And yet, despite the cold, the pain, the constant dampness, there's something else. The thrill of the open sea. The quiet pride that you belong. You earned this place. You're not a mascot, not someone's little sister tagging along. You're a warrior. And warriors row, their hearts pounding with the thrill of the open sea. This sense of belonging, this pride, it's yours to keep. Then finally land. A dark smudge on the horizon. Your hands throb, your shoulders scream, and your heart pounds. You're exhausted, hungry, seasick, and ready. Because the longship isn't just transport. It's a crucible. And when you step off it, you'll be forged. The shore appears like a secret someone tried to keep. Small houses, smoke from chimneys, chickens, probably a baker. Maybe even a hopeful little goat. You're going to destroy it. As the ship hits the beach, your stomach flips. Not from guilt, but raw panic. This is it, your first real raid. Real steel. Real danger. The real possibility of stabbing yourself in front of everyone. You jump out. The sand is soft. Too soft. You almost sprain your ankle just reaching the village. Battle cries ring out, wild, primal, completely improvised. Yours sounds like a goat coughing. It's fine. You're new. Your first opponent is a chicken. Charges, flapping with authority. You sidestep and aim for a man with a pitchfork. He drops it and bolts. You chase him, then remember you're supposed to be looting. You break into a storehouse and find cheese. Lots of cheese. You take some. Feels like a win. Outside, yelling, smoke, chaos. Someone trips over a bucket. Another starts singing mid-battle. A warrior next to you shouts to Odin and promptly falls into a well. You begin to understand why Viking raids are feared, and also deeply confusing. Eventually, resistance fades. The village is pacified. A polite way of saying burned and looted. Your crew grabs what they can. Silver, tools, a goat, and one very handsome stool. You limp back to the ship with a bruised shin, a stolen spoon, and half a wheel of cheese. It's not what you imagined. No slow-motion triumph. No heroic speeches. Just sweat, noise, and the realization that you may have screamed through the entire thing. You're not sure if it's the adrenaline or the fear, but your heart is racing, and you can't shake the feeling that you've just been part of something monumental. But you lived. You held your ground. You kept your weapon. Your tunic smells like panic and goat. Your ears are still ringing, but deep down you feel it. That thing older warriors whisper about around the fire. That pulse. That certainty. That power. You didn't just survive your first raid. You were part of it. And you emerged victorious, feeling the first taste of true accomplishment. This feeling, this sense of achievement, it's yours to savor. And next time, you'll do better. The village fades behind you, smoldering, looted, and likely confused. You're back on the longship, slouched over your oar, smelling like someone roasted anxiety over wet wood. Your tunic's torn. Your boots are caked in mud. There's a cut on your shoulder you didn't notice until someone else did. That'll scar nicely. They say with a grin as if that's medical advice. Your hands are raw, your legs cramp, and there's a chicken feather stuck in your braid. You don't know if it's from combat or lunch. Maybe both. The row back is quiet, groans, chewing, and exaggerated retellings of what happened. The journey back to the camp is a mix of exhaustion and relief. You're glad the raid is over, but you also can't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. You've survived your first raid, and you're one step closer to becoming a true Viking warrior. And you're not alone in this journey. You have your fellow warriors, your shared experiences, your shared history. This camaraderie, this shared bond, it's yours to cherish. Someone claims they fought 5 armed villagers solo. You saw them cry after dropping their sword in a puddle. But no one calls them out. Let them have it. Food is passed around again. more dried fish, hard bread, and most sacred of all, warm, bitter ale. Tastes like victory and mildew. You drink it anyway. You thought triumph would be louder. Instead, it feels like bruises and a quiet, deep satisfaction lodged somewhere behind your ribs. You did it. You crossed the sea, stood your ground, and came back with cheese and a story. By nightfall, you're back at camp. The fire crackles. Meat sizzles. Someone is already asleep, snoring into their helmet. You sit with the others, cross-legged, staring into the flames like you're waiting for the gods to speak. They don't. But someone passes you a roasted turnip, which is almost the same thing. There's laughter now. It's not the loud, boastful laughter of victory. It's the low, worn-out kind that comes from people who've survived something ridiculous together. You laugh too, not because it was funny, but because it happened, and you were there and you didn't die. As you curl up with your shield and your dented helmet, you know this is just the beginning. The first raid. The first bruises of many. But you're not alone. You're part of a brotherhood, bonded by shared experiences and laughter. But tonight you rest. You've earned it. Raiding ends when the cold sets in, and so does your fleeting taste of glory. You return home expecting rest, maybe even praise. Instead, you get Viking winter. Nose-numbing, soul-sapping, morale-destroying winter. The fjord ices over. The longship gets dragged ashore and flipped upside down like some ancient, beached sea monster. You pack away your armor, knowing that the off-season is survival, just in hard mode. The chores double. The sunlight disappears. So does your will to function. You chop firewood until your hands stop working. You haul frozen buckets from a stream that glares at you with murderous intent. The goats, who have always despised you, now rely on you for food and warmth. You don't like them, but you respect their grit. They return the favor by screaming at 3 a.m. Food? A disaster. Fresh meat is a memory. Your diet becomes a rotation of smoked fish, dried fish, and something pickled that smells like it might have been cleaning vinegar once. For variety, turnip mash. It doesn't help. You eat in silence, wrapped in every layer you own. You smell like wet wool, old fur, and poor decisions. Your hair hasn't been dry in weeks. Your toes feel like someone else's. You keep polishing your shield, not out of necessity, but to remember what joy felt like. Your family is everywhere, all the time. The longhouse is packed, smoky, and full of arguments about misplaced firewood and why the stew tastes like laundry. You escape to train in the snow, even if your fingers freeze to your sword hilt, to have space. And yet you change. You get stronger, harder, colder inside and out. You start to enjoy the silence. You stop noticing the scent of pickled despair. You endure. Then, one morning, a change. The snow started melting. A bird chirps. A tiny, shrill thing that sounds like hope with a headache. You walk to the fjord. The ice is cracking. Spring is coming. Raiding season will return, and you'll be ready. Hungry, angry, and itching for action. Winter tried. It didn't win. You survived. Barely. But you didn't just survive, you thrived. You endured the harsh winter, the relentless chores, the meager diet, and the unwanted suitors. You emerged stronger, more determined, and more resilient than ever. Your reward? Marriage proposals. It starts innocently. A local farmer's son shows up with dried fish and a hopeful grin. He says you'd make a strong wife. You ask if he can swing an axe. He says he doesn't do weapons. You say you don't do men who can't. He leaves quickly. The next one brings a carved antler comb. You thank him, then use it to scratch your dog's ears. He doesn't come back. Soon it becomes a pattern. Nervous young men showed up with trinkets and dreams of taming the village's most intimidating shieldmaiden. But taming was never the goal. You don't want cozy. You want combat. You want sparring, raiding, and maybe the occasional feast where no one brings up goats. Your aunt says it's time to settle down. You say you'll do that when your axe rusts. She mutters something about dying alone. You say you'll die gloriously, which sounds like a better deal. One suitor even challenges you to a duel, calls it a tradition. You accept. He leaves with a bruise the shape of your shield and a newfound respect for women who train in blizzards for fun. Eventually, the suitors stop. Word spreads. You're not looking to be someone's wife, stew cook, or blanket negotiator. You want more and less. More battle, less small talk, more glory, fewer goats. To be clear, you're not against love. You've just never met anyone who makes your heart race faster than the sound of charging hooves. Until then, you're pleased sharpening your axe alone. The village girls whisper that you're too proud. The boys whisper that you're terrifying. They're both right. You spend your evenings on the training field, not weaving. You polish your blade instead of planning a wedding. And you sleep beside your axe, not out of loneliness, but because it never argues. You've fought before. Raids, skirmishes, petty clan spats over insults and livestock. But this is war. It starts before dawn. The kind of cold, heavy silence that feels like the earth holding its breath. This isn't some frightened village. This is a trained force, armored, armed, and sharpening their blades with your name on their minds. There's no speech, just your chieftain muttering, "Don't die stupid," before walking off to tie his boots. You nod. Seems fair. You take your place in the shield wall, shoulder to shoulder with people you've fought beside and insulted over burnt stew. Your shield feels heavier today. So does your breath. Someone behind you pukes. Someone else starts singing. Then it starts. The first clash is chaos. Shields collide. Swords scream. Someone dies. Probably more than one someone. You block. You swing. You duck. You stab. Repeat. It's not a battle plan. It's survival on instinct. Your shield splinters. So you grab your axe. Your axe breaks. You don't panic. You seize a spear dropped by someone who won't be needing it anymore. Time blurs. You forget what language you're even shouting in. Your feet ache. Your arms never stop. And then, without warning, you fall. Not dramatically, not in slow motion. Just a slip, a stumble. You land in the mud beside someone who looks uncomfortably familiar. The battlefield is muffled. All you hear is your heartbeat, loud and lonely. A shadow moves. You roll. A blade misses barely. You reach for the nearest weapon, a rock. It works, miraculously, and then suddenly it's over. Not the heavy silence of anticipation. This is final. The kind of silence that belongs to the dead. You sit in it, soaked in blood, not all of it yours, and try to remember what fear felt like. Or pride, or even hunger. A bird lands nearby and instantly regrets it. You're alive. You shouldn't be, but here you are. And when someone asks how you survived, you'll shrug and say, "Didn't have anything better to do." It's not a lie, but it's not the whole story either. After that day, something changes. You're still the same. Same boots, same dented axe, same mystery stew stain that's become part of your wardrobe. But now, when people see you, they don't just see a fighter. They know a tale, a walking legend. Someone calls you the one who wouldn't die. Another calls you Goat Hammer, less flattering, but it sticks, thanks to one unfortunate event involving a panicked enemy and an extremely surprised goat. You don't correct them. Let them talk. The truth is messier and far less entertaining. Now, when you walk through the village, people shift to the side, not out of fear, but caution as if they're not sure whether you're about to give advice or issue a challenge. You nod politely. They nod nervously. Kids whisper your name and dare each other to poke your shield. They fail every time. Once you caught a boy mid-sneak and silently handed him your axe. He returned it and sprinted away. You haven't seen him since. Smart boy. Warriors now seek your opinion before raids. Not just to be polite, but because they listen. You've been through it. You didn't just come back, you brought the scars as proof. You're no longer the loud girl with the big swing. You've evolved into a veteran, a strategist, a living warning label. Even strangers know your name, or at least try to. A traveling merchant once bowed too low and called you mistress of blades. You corrected him by spitting into a bucket and asking if he had better cheese this time. He nearly fainted. At night, your story echoes around campfires. Retold, reimagined, and wildly inaccurate. Now there are glowing ravens, thunderclaps, and a berserker's kiss. You let it slide. It's more fun that way. You didn't ask for fame. You didn't smile about it. But now that it's here, you carry it like your shield. Battered, dependable, always ready. You used to wonder if people would ever take you seriously. Now you wonder if they'll stop trembling long enough to talk. You're not the youngest anymore. A fresh wave of wide-eyed girls shows up. Braids too tight, grips too loose, voices too loud about all the things they're going to do in battle. You see yourself in them, just with fewer bruises and more ambition. They don't look at you like a hero. They watch you like a storm cloud, beautiful, dangerous, and one sudden move from thunder. You've earned that. Your joints ache now, your sword wrist cracks when it's cold. There's a scar across your ribs that itches right before snowfall. You don't bounce back as easily as you used to, and when you do heal, the pain sticks around like an old drinking partner who doesn't know when to leave. But you're not softer. You're just sharp in the places that matter. You train less to prove something and more to stay sharp. You eat slower and sleep lighter. Speak only when there's something worth saying. Half the Longhouse still hasn't heard your voice. When the younger shield maidens ask how to win their first fight, you keep it simple, don't die. When they ask how to earn respect, you say, break their nose, then help them up. And when they ask when it stops being scary, you tell them the truth. It doesn't. You get better at hiding it. You still raid, but not as often. When you do, people pay attention. If you're going, they relax. If you're not, they recheck their armor. Your axe is worn, leather-wrapped, notched, and still wickedly sharp. It survived more than most warriors and outlasted every suitor. You've thought about hanging it up. Then someone says something stupid, or a threat appears, and you remember you're not done. You never aimed to be a legend. You just wanted to fight, to survive, to carve a space for yourself in a world that said you shouldn't have one. And through blood, fire, and sheer stubbornness, you did. You're not just a shield maiden. You're a warning. And next time someone asks if you still fight, you'll grin just a little and say, only when I have to. And sometimes just for fun. If you were unwell in ancient Greece, you didn't ring for a doctor. You packed your things and made a journey. The destination? A sanctuary of Asclepius, the god of healing, often at Epidaurus, where marble colonnades rose above the scent of laurel and burnt offerings. When you arrived, you didn't just check in. You purified yourself, bathing in sacred waters, offering a token sacrifice, a rooster most likely, and preparing to sleep in the abaton, a silent, shadowed chamber reserved for the hopeful sick. Sometimes, snakes roamed freely there. Yes, snakes. Sacred to Asclepius, they symbolized healing and rebirth. The idea was simple but mystical. Sleep in the god's presence, and he would visit you in your dreams. These weren't just symbolic dreams, they were your prescription. Maybe Asclepius touched your wounded arm. Perhaps he handed you a particular herb. When morning came, you'd recount your dream to a temple priest. He wasn't just a listener, he was a spiritual pharmacist. He'd interpret your vision and tell you what to do. The process wasn't passive. The journey, the purification, the prayers, they all worked together to prime your body and mind. Some modern scholars say it was an early form of psychosomatic therapy. Others call it a sophisticated placebo. Either way, it often seemed to help. Some are left cured, others left changed, but nearly all were left with a story. And those stories? They were carved in stone. Sanctuaries displayed these testimonies with pride. Marble slabs describing restored sight, healed limbs, and divine aid. Not double-masked trials, perhaps, but still deeply persuasive. The ritual blended medicine and faith, dreams and diagnosis. Healing wasn't just clinical, it was cosmic. And if you were lucky, the cosmos whispered back to you around midnight, in the form of a god, a dream, and a snake curled at your feet. Now, let's leave those tranquil sleep chambers behind and head east to ancient Mesopotamia. Here, healing wasn't gentle. It was warfare, a battle of spirit and spell. Illness wasn't just physical, it was personal, caused by angry gods, spiteful neighbors, or vengeful ghosts. The cure? Trap the spirit in a bowl. These incantation bowls, also known as Babylonian demon bowls, were spiritual traps. Simple clay dishes turned upside down and buried beneath doorways, not for decoration but for defense. Each bowl was covered in spiraling inscriptions, usually in Aramaic. The writing called on angels, saints, and divine forces, chanting protection and casting out evil. The goal wasn't just to expel the demon. It was to trap it forever, sealed beneath the home like some ancient supernatural Tupperware. Some bowls had crude illustrations of demons bound in chains, part exorcism, part humiliation. Others went further, mentioning family names, household problems, and even rival sorcerers. Healing and revenge, all in one ceramic cursebreaker. They were buried at the thresholds of homes, the boundary line between safety and chaos. Because, like nosy neighbors, demons were thought to loiter at the edges, waiting to sneak in. The bowls served as invisible bouncers. Modern medicine might scoff, but the deeper idea resonates. These rituals turned invisible threats into something tangible, something you could name, draw, or trap. They gave people control over fear and structure over chaos. So, if something ever feels off in your home, check under the mat. There might still be a dusty bowl holding back the dark with little more than clay, ink, and Mesopotamian hope. While Mesopotamians were bottling demons, the ancient Egyptians had a different approach. One that was sensual, aromatic, and beautifully balanced. For the ancient Egyptians, healing was about restoring harmony of body, spirit, and scent. At the heart of this fragrant tradition was the blue lotus, a symbol, a mild intoxicant, a sacred bridge between the mortal and the divine. Not just a flower, a symbol, a mild intoxicant, a sacred bridge between the mortal and the divine. Soaked in wine or blended into ointments, the blue lotus was used to ease pain, lift grief, and open the mind. Ancient art shows partygoers clutching it like a chalice. Priests offered it in temples. Mummies were buried with it. It wasn't just medicine, it was ritual, vision, connection. But Egypt's healing practices didn't stop with flowers. Their medical knowledge was vast and often shockingly advanced. Texts like the Ebers Papyrus, a 20-meter scroll, listed over 800 remedies, some surprisingly effective, others not so much. Among the more memorable treatments are crocodile dung suppositories. Yes, really, but also honey-based wound care, garlic for infections, frankincense, and myrrh, ingredients we now know have antimicrobial properties. Egyptian medicine walked the line between science and sorcery, between careful observation and divine invocation, between lotus dreams and crocodile paste. And through it all, they were chasing the same thing we all are: relief, restoration, and a sense that someone, something, is watching over our healing. Some treatments in ancient healing practices were more spiritual than scientific. For instance, a peculiar cure for a toothache involved placing a cooked mouse on the sore spot, while another method included chanting spells to ward off the illness, akin to commanding a stubborn servant. The boundary between medicine and magic was often blurred. Healers, known as SWNW, were not just practitioners but also held the role of priests. Temples, in this context, were not just places of worship but also acted as hospitals, underscoring the spiritual essence of healing. People came to these temples to be healed through a mix of poultices, prayers, and offerings to gods like Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of disease. If they got better, it was great. If not, maybe the gods were testing them. But don't think the Egyptians only believed in magic. They also did real medical work. They performed surgeries, set broken bones, and drained infections. They knew how to check the pulse and examine the urine to diagnose the problem. Famous Greek doctors, such as Hippocrates and Galen, drew significant insights from Egyptian medicine. Still, rituals stayed important. In Egypt, healing wasn't just about the body. It was sacred. Healing meant aligning the body with the eternal. Sometimes that just took a flower, a prayer, and a little hope wrapped in cloth. While Egyptians used oils and spells, far away in Siberia and the Americas, healing had a different goal. Not just to fix the body, but to find the missing soul. In these cultures, sickness meant something was wrong with your spirit. Maybe it was scared, lost, or even stolen. Only the shaman could bring it back. Shamans weren't doctors the way we think of them. They were go-betweens, part healer, part priest, part spirit traveler. Their healing took time, hours or even days of drumming, chanting, fasting, and visions. The goal was to enter a trance, leave the body, and go into the spirit world. There, they might fight dark spirits, talk to ancestors, or bargain with nature to bring back the lost soul. To the shaman and their people, these journeys were real. They used special tools, including drums, which were seen as the earth's heartbeat, animal masks or cloaks to call on spirit helpers, and sometimes vigorous plants to open their minds. One famous plant brew used in the Amazon was ayahuasca. It caused visions, purging, and powerful emotional experiences. Soul loss could come from grief, fear, or breaking a taboo, presented as tiredness, sadness, or simply bad luck. Today, we might call it emotional trauma or stress. But instead of therapy, healing might involve calling the person's name into the forest, dancing by firelight, or singing the soul back into their chest. In some places, shamans acted out battles, shaking, pretending to fight, or pulling invisible sickness from the body. In others, they used sacred smoke, pressed on key spots, or whispered prayers to a sleeping child. In ancient healing practices, there was no cold distance between the healer and the patient. Healing was a shared, emotional journey that told stories, brought back memories, and reconnected people with the world around them. In these cultures, an illness was not just a physical ailment but a crack in the soul. If one were fortunate, a courageous healer would venture into the darkness and bring the lost spirit home, highlighting the profound role of the healer in the healing process. While shamans sought souls in spirit worlds, ancient Indian sages looked inward. They developed a healing system that was more structured yet still mystical. This system, known as Ayurveda, which translates to knowledge of life, was not just about curing disease. It was about maintaining a delicate balance between the body, mind, and the universe, underscoring the holistic nature of Ayurveda. If your stomach hurts, it isn't just bad food. It meant your inner balance was off. Ayurvedic teachings said every person has 3 dashas: Veda, air and space; Pitta, fire and water; and Kapha, earth and water. Your mix of dashas affected everything: your health, your mood, and even your breakfast choices. The healer's job wasn't to stop symptoms. It was to balance your dashas using herbs, food, massage, meditation, and often oil. Yes, oil. Ayurveda loves oil. Warm sesame or medicated ghee was poured on the forehead in practice called Sharadhara, meant to relax the nerves and awaken the third eye. Other treatments included full-body oil massages, herbal smoke, cleansing enemas, and even vomiting, called vamana. Sounds harsh, but it was seen as a deep cleanse. But Ayurveda wasn't just a list of old remedies. Texts like the Charaka Samhita, written over 2,000 years ago, explained anatomy, surgery, and health philosophy. Ayurvedic healers were skilled at observing. They checked the pulse, tongue, eyes, and even voice to find illness. But the spiritual side was always there. In this system, being healthy wasn't just about the body. It was also about being morally and spiritually in balance. When something goes wrong inside you, it ripples through the whole web of life. The healer's job is to listen carefully, understand, and help mend that web. They use herbs, chants, and the wisdom of ancestors who watch by the fire. In many Native American traditions, healing is not just fixing a body part. It's about cleansing the whole person. Illness, whether in the body or mind, is seen as an imbalance between yourself, your community, the spirit world, and nature. One of the most potent healing ceremonies is the sweat lodge. It is a ritual of heat, prayer, and spiritual renewal. The lodge is a simple dome made from willow branches covered with blankets or hides. Inside, it's dark and very hot. Heated stones called grandfathers sit in the center. Water mixed with sacred herbs is poured over them to create steam. The air fills with heat and memory. People sit in a circle, often naked or barely clothed, led by a spiritual guide called a roadman. This isn't a sauna, it's like a womb. The lodge symbolizes the earth's belly, a place to release toxins, pain, and heavy feelings. Songs and prayers fill the air, sometimes in ancient languages almost lost. The ceremony happens in rounds. Each round is stronger than the last, focusing on a specific theme, such as gratitude, forgiveness, or calling ancestors. The goal isn't just to sweat out sickness. It's to listen to yourself, others, and the spirits. In the dark, with no distractions, people often experience visions, feel deep emotions, or find a sense of calm and peace. It's not always easy. The heat can be intense and uncomfortable, but that's part of the healing. Other rituals include smudging, burning sacred herbs like sage, sweetgrass, or cedar to cleanse people or places. Healing songs passed down by word of mouth are also medicine. Some tribes use sand painting, making colorful patterns with crushed stones in ceremonies to realign spirits. At the heart of all this is a connection to the land, ancestors, and elements. Healing is never done alone. It's always done in a relationship. Through ritual, a person is brought back into harmony with the world. Whether by fire, steam, or song, the aim is the same: to find balance, remember who you are, and walk strong on the sacred earth. This sense of community is a powerful aspect of ancient healing rituals, making everyone feel connected and part of a larger whole. After traveling from Greek dream temples to sweat lodges under the stars, one truth stands out. Ancient healing was never just about the body. It encompassed the mind and spirit as well. It was a whole experience: physical, emotional, spiritual, and social. The tools changed: lotus valves, demon bowls, needles, drums, but the goal stayed steady: restore balance. Across the ancient world, health meant more than no disease. It meant harmony between body and soul, humans and nature, this world and the unseen. Whether through the cosmic pulse of ki, the rhythm of dancing feet, or temple trances, healing worked because it gave meaning to pain and power to the sick. They also saw what modern medicine sometimes forgets. Humans need meaning. We want to know why we hurt. We hope to heal. Ancient healing provided both an explanation, spirits, imbalance, or angry ancestors, and a path forward, often as much about community as it was about a cure. This emphasis on the role of meaning in healing validates our search for understanding and makes us feel understood in our journey toward healing. These rituals were powerful, even when they didn't cure diseases. A Mesopotamian demon bowl might not kill germs, but it could calm the mind. A shaman's soul retrieval might not fix bones, but it could soothe trauma in ways words couldn't. Even when science failed, stories, symbols, and ceremonies had real healing power. This emphasis on the power of these elements in healing inspires hope and a sense of possibility in the audience. Here's the twist. Many ancient ideas are coming back. Modern medicine now encompasses mind-body care, which includes meditation, visualization, and the use of plant-based medicines. Psychedelic therapy echoes shamanic journeys. Hospitals utilize music, scents, and rituals that respect cultural diversity. It's as if, after centuries of science ruling, we're rediscovering what our ancestors knew without even realizing it. Healing isn't just chemistry, it's a connection. So what do ancient healing rituals teach us? Not just about herbs or chants, but about ourselves. We're not machines to fix. We're ecosystems to nurture. Sometimes, a whispered prayer, a drum's rhythm, or sacred smoke can reach places a knife cannot. Deep down, healing isn't just medical. It's human, and the ancients, with all their mystery and mess, understood this best. Long before crowns, amulets, or gemstone rings, there were shells. Tiny shells with holes were strung and worn, not just for beauty, but for meaning. Some of the oldest jewelry ever discovered comes from places like Blombo's Cave in South Africa, where archaeologists uncovered shell beads that are more than 75,000 years old. These shells and beads, meticulously pierced, smoothed, and arranged, were not mere decorations. They were a testament to the ingenuity of early Homo sapiens. Despite the challenges of survival, they found time to craft items from shells, teeth, bones, and stones, all for the purpose of communication. These early ornaments were not just aesthetically pleasing, they were a form of storytelling. A necklace could reveal your role in the group, your family ties, or even your readiness to mate. Jewelry, in its earliest form, was a language that spoke volumes without the need for words. Bird talons, animal teeth, amber pieces, carved bones. Nothing was wasted. Everything had meaning. Wearing a predator's tooth wasn't just for show. It said, "I survived this." It was protection, pride, and spirit all in one simple necklace. Many of these beads came from the sea, even for inland groups. This suggests early trade and exchange between tribes. Jewelry was a portable culture, a way to carry identity and connection across lands. There was also a spiritual side. Some researchers think these items had magic or ritual power. Shells are linked to water, bones to ancestors, and teeth to strength. They were more than decoration. They were talismans, worn close to protect from sickness, bad luck, or evil spirits. The birth of jewelry marked a new kind of thinking. Awareness not just of yourself but of how others saw you. A shell on a string became a statement about belonging, survival, and meaning. Ancient humans weren't primitive in the old sense. They were artists, curators, and storytellers, shaping identity with bone and threading legacy through shells. As humans moved through the Paleolithic, jewelry gained deeper meaning, marking life, death, belonging, and legacy. During the Ice Age, jewelry wasn't just worn, it was buried with ceremony. Early graves, such as those in Sumer, Russia, dating back over 30,000 years, demonstrate the profound importance of jewelry. One grave held a child, maybe 10 years old, buried in a tunic covered with over 4,000 ivory beads. Each bead was carved from a mammoth tusk, taking hours to make. The whole set probably took thousands of hours, all for a child. This shows jewelry had become sacred, a farewell, a promise for the next world. These Ice Age pieces weren't rushed. They featured symmetry, patterns, and rhythm, showing a developed sense of beauty. Pendants shaped like animals, detailed beadwork, and bracelets carved from reindeer antlers demonstrated skill and conveyed spiritual significance. Jewelry was no longer made from scraps. It was a true craft, and materials told stories of place and identity. Baltic amber was found far from where it formed, hinting at long-distance trade. Jet, a shiny black fossil wood, was prized and used for jewelry for thousands of years. Some cultures used red ochre, a pigment resembling blood, to dye beads or burial clothes, linking them to life and rebirth. Jewelry likely showed social status, who you were, where you belonged, and how much your group valued you. Being buried with fine jewelry was an honor. The person might be a leader, shaman, or someone deeply loved. Jewelry may also convey love, clan identity, or coming of age. Although, without written records, these interpretations are based on careful study and analysis. Still, even in cold, dangerous times, humans made time for beauty. Jewelry was a quiet rebellion against the harshness of nature. It said life and identity mattered. As humans transitioned into the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, jewelry evolved from a tribal expression to a tool of power and protection. Amulets, pendants, and charms were no longer just decoration. They held intention, magic, and divine power. These small objects connected humans to the supernatural, protecting them from curses, illness, and bad luck, or so people believed. In ancient Egypt, jewelry, used as an amulet, reached new heights of significance. Scarabs, banks, and the Eye of Horus weren't just pretty shapes. They were spiritual armor. The scarab symbolized rebirth and transformation and was buried with the dead to help them in the afterlife. Children wore fish-shaped amulets to protect against drowning. Pharaohs were buried with gold jewelry shaped like cobras and falcons, calling on gods to guard them even after death. Materials mattered. Gold wasn't just valuable. These weren't just random decorations. They had been carefully pierced, smoothed down, and arranged. In short, they were made with purpose. The ingenuity of early Homo sapiens in threading shells, bones, teeth, and stones together, despite the challenges of survival, is truly impressive. The answer to this puzzle lies in the realm of communication. These items weren't just for looks. They were a kind of language, a narrative woven into each piece. A necklace could show your role in the group, your family line, or if you were ready to find a mate. Jewelry was a story you could wear, one that didn't need words. Today, we often view jewelry as a luxury, but early pieces were usually crafted from nature's leftovers. Bird claws, animal teeth, carved bones, and bits of amber. Nothing went to waste. Everything could carry meaning. A tooth from a predator worn on a string didn't just look cool. It said, "I survived this." It was part protection, part pride, part spiritual power. The spiritual significance of these early beads, often sourced from the sea, is a fascinating aspect of early human culture that hints at trade and exchange, maybe even between tribes. Jewelry, even in ancient times, was a portable form of culture. It helped people carry their identity and connections with them as they moved. But there was also a more profound spiritual meaning. Some researchers believe these items had magical or sacred uses. Shells were tied to water, bones to ancestors, and teeth to strength. So they weren't only decorations. They were talismans. Worn close to the skin, they were meant to guard against sickness, bad luck, or evil forces. In many ways, the first jewelry marked a significant milestone in human thought. It showed that people not only thought about themselves, but also cared about how others saw them. A shell on a string became more than just a shell. It was a message about identity, about survival, about meaning. So, no, early humans weren't as primitive as we used to think. They were already artists, curators, and storytellers, carving their history into bone and threading their legacy through holes in shells. As Paleolithic life progressed, jewelry became increasingly significant. It marked life, death, belonging, and memory. During the Ice Age, jewelry wasn't just worn. It was sometimes buried with great care. Some of the oldest graves, such as those in Sungir, Russia, are over 30,000 years old. They show us that jewelry held deep meaning even in those times. One grave had a child, maybe 10 years old, laid in a tunic covered with more than 4,000 ivory beads. Each bead was carved by hand from a mammoth tusk. Each one took hours to shape. The whole outfit must have taken thousands of hours to complete, all for one child. What does that tell us? That jewelry had become more than decoration. It had turned into a sacred gift, a goodbye, and maybe even a hope for the next life. These Ice Age pieces weren't rushed. They showed balance, rhythm, and repeated designs. Pendants shaped like animals, patterned beadwork, and reindeer antler bracelets showed both skill and meaning. Jewelry was no longer made from leftover bits. It had become a serious craft. The materials also had stories to tell. Baltic amber has been found far from where it came from, meaning long-distance trade was already happening. Jet, a shiny black fossilized wood, was highly valued. People still used it in mourning jewelry many centuries later. In some places, red ochre, a pigment that looked like blood, was used to dye beads or clothes for burial, maybe as a symbol of life or rebirth. As societies evolved, jewelry began to reflect social rank. Who you were, where you came from, and how much time your people spent decorating you, all of it mattered. If someone was buried with detailed jewelry, it was a sign of honor and high social status. Maybe they were a leader, a healer, or just deeply loved. This transition from a form of communication to a symbol of social status is a pivotal aspect of jewelry's history. Of course, some pieces may hold marked love, clan bonds, or memories of growing up. But without written records, we can only make intelligent guesses from graves and what they left behind. Even so, what we've found is amazing. The intricate designs, the careful craftsmanship, and the use of precious materials in these ancient pieces of jewelry are a testament to the human spirit and creativity. Even while facing cold, danger, and daily hardship, people still made and wore beauty. Jewelry back then was a quiet protest against nature's cruelty. It was a way to say, I matter. As time moved into the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, significant advancements in technology and social organization led to the growth of jewelry from tribal art into powerful tools for protection and meaning. Amulets, charms, and pendants were no longer just lovely to look at. They held purpose. They were believed to hold magic or the power of gods. They held purpose. They were believed to hold magic or the power of gods. These small items connected people to the spirit world, keeping them safe from curses, disease, or bad luck, or so they thought. In ancient Egypt, jewelry as amulet reached new heights. Scarabs, ankhs, and the Eye of Horus weren't just beautiful designs. They were spiritual shields. The scarab symbolizes rebirth and transformation. It was often buried with the dead to guide them safely to the afterlife. Kids wore fish-shaped charms to protect them from drowning. Pharaohs were laid to rest wearing gold shaped like cobras and falcons, calling on gods to guard them in death. Material choice mattered. Gold wasn't just shiny or rare. Gold, with its eternal allure, was not just a valuable metal but a material believed to be intertwined with the divine. Lapis lazuli, with its deep blue hue reminiscent of the sky, was thought to provide a window into the celestial realm. Each stone, from turquoise to carnelian, carried its unique significance. These materials were not just used for adornment, but as a means to encapsulate cosmic concepts in personal, tangible forms. In Mesopotamia, people held similar beliefs. They wore cylinder seals with carved protective gods around their necks or on their bodies. Beads with sacred signs were believed to fight off sickness and keep evil spirits away. Even kings were often shown loaded with jewelry, bracelets, collars, and earrings. This wasn't just a display of wealth but also a means to protect their spirit, fostering a deep connection to their spiritual beliefs. The ancient Greeks also believed in amulets for protection. Soldiers went into battle with engraved gems depicting gods or mythical creatures, trusting that they would give them strength or keep them safe. A popular image was the Gorgonian, Medusa's head, thought to freeze evil in its tracks. These items weren't just for the rich. Ordinary people, just like you and me, wore them too, making them an integral part of ancient Greek society. Whether fashioned from gold or simple clay, ancient jewelry served a common purpose. Worn around the neck, wrist, or even sewn into clothing, it served as a daily conduit to the divine. It functioned as a form of protection, a silent prayer, and a symbol of social and spiritual survival. Its use was not limited to the elite but was a part of everyday life for all members of ancient societies. It allowed people to carry a piece of the gods, transforming fear into something wearable. It helped them face life's unknowns with beauty and a little power borrowed from the universe. As societies became increasingly divided by class, jewelry transitioned from sacred symbols to markers of status. It didn't just protect, it shouted, "I have power, I have riches, and you don't." From Mesopotamian queens to Chinese emperors, jewelry has become a powerful political tool. Its shine showed both a divine blessing and elite status. In Sumer, one of the first major civilizations, archaeologists found stunning royal jewelry in the tomb of Queen Pwabi, who was buried around 2600 BCE. She was laid to rest wearing layers of gold and lapis lazuli, headpieces, necklaces, large earrings, and a fancy beaded cloak made from rare stones. Her burial wasn't just about riches. It was a spiritual display. Her jewelry was meant to carry her authority into the next world. The Egyptians took this even further. Pharaohs wore wide collars made of gold, turquoise, and enamel to signify their divine status as rulers. Their crowns had images of snakes for protection and kingship. Even noble children wore rings and charms. Jewelry wasn't just for significant events. It was an integral part of daily life and a clear indicator of social status, shaping the societal structure of ancient Egypt. In ancient China, the top class preferred jade over gold. Jade wasn't just lovely to look at. It stood for purity, eternal life, and moral strength. Confucian teachings even connected jade's smoothness and strength with human virtues. Emperors were buried in full jade suits, sewn together with gold thread, believing the suits would protect the body and lift the soul. Around the Mediterranean, the Mycenaeans and later the Greeks and Romans continued this tradition. Gold wreaths shaped like laurel leaves were worn during public events and funerals. They showed wealth and good taste. Roman senators wore signet rings engraved with their family symbols. These rings were like ID badges and security keys all in one. Jewelry was not just a form of art or magic in ancient societies, but a significant player in the political arena. A lavish necklace could signify favor or serve as a trap, drawing someone into a risky alliance. Jewelry-sealed marriages, a symbol of loyalty, were used to gain blessings from gods or kings. By the time writing was invented, jewelry had evolved into a multifaceted tool, carrying meaning that reflected law, religion, royal bloodlines, and social class. It was part of society's structure, carried meaning for law, religion, royal bloodlines, and class. It was a quiet language of power, worn on the neck, spread across the chest, or flashed with a movement of the hand. Behind every sparkling crown or carved ring was someone working hard in a workshop, the ancient jeweler. As civilizations grew more advanced, so did jewelry making. It wasn't just about threading beads or hammering metal anymore. Jewelry turned into a blend of art, skill, and science, often far ahead of its time. In Bronze Age societies, artisans became masters of metalwork. They used tools to shape gold with great detail. Techniques like granulation, attaching tiny gold dots, and filigree, using thin wires, needed perfect heat control, material skill, and design knowledge. The Minoans of Crete, for instance, crafted jewelry that appears remarkably modern. Gold bees with tiny drops of honey, roaring lions, goddesses with wings spread wide. These were more than ornaments. They were small, wearable myths. Egyptian goldsmiths pushed the limits even more. They used blowpipes to guide fire and open molds to cast metal. The results were excellent collars and sacred charms that still impress people today. One of the most incredible finds in King Tutankhamun's tomb was a chest ornament, a scarab made from Libyan desert glass. That rare glass formed long ago from a meteorite strike. Jewelry like this wasn't only stylish but also a symbol of wealth and social status. It was cosmic. Meanwhile, in the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia, highly skilled artisans were meticulously setting stones into gold, inventing early drills powered by string and bow, and perfecting detailed carving on seal stones. These engraved pieces weren't just beautiful. They served as identification, signatures, and sometimes magical charms, a testament to the artisan's dedication and skill. One remarkable technique, lost wax casting, was first developed in Mesopotamia and Egypt. This process involved sculpting a model in wax, covering it with clay, and then heating it to melt the wax, leaving a mold for molten metal. The result was rings, earrings, and pendants that were both lightweight and ornate. By the time of the Etruscans and Greeks, jewelry had become a whole industry. Workshops employed engravers, metalworkers, polishers, and gem cutters. Designs could be copied using molds, and innovations such as hinges, clasps, and mechanical lockets emerged. These advances weren't just luxury. They told stories of technology, trade, and craftsmanship. The emergence of professional jewelers marked a significant shift in the role of jewelry. It was no longer just an accessory but a means to craft and express human identity. Jewelry became both art and code, a silent testimony to the hands that made it and the societies that proudly wore it. As trade routes expanded across deserts, seas, and empires, jewelry evolved beyond serving as a means of personal expression or local ritual, taking on a broader significance. It became a currency, a tool of diplomacy, and a global commodity. A single gemstone might pass through many hands, kingdoms, and languages before ending up on a queen's neck or a warrior's sword hilt. Take lapis lazuli, a deep blue stone more precious than gold in ancient times. Its only known ancient source was the Badakhshan mines in modern Afghanistan. Yet lapis lazuli, a deep blue stone more precious than gold in ancient times, appears in Mesopotamian temples, Egyptian tombs, and even Mycenaean Greece. This suggests that merchants carried it thousands of miles over mountains, rivers, and harsh terrain, not just for its beauty but for what that beauty symbolized: status, access, and connection. The trade of lapis lazuli transformed jewelry from a local craft into a cross-cultural symbol. The Phoenicians, for example, acted as middlemen, sailing from the Levant to North Africa and southern Europe, where they spread their elegant glass beads alongside foreign goods. Egyptian lotus designs appeared in Iberia, and Assyrian motifs spread into Mediterranean workshops. The Silk Road carried pearls from the Persian Gulf, rubies from India, and jade from China, sometimes to Rome. These weren't just materials but messages. A Chinese jade hairpin in a Central Asian grave suggested political alliances. A Persian turquoise ring in a Greek market told of empires meeting and cultures blending. Jewelry also served as a form of tribute and bribery. Emperors exchanged it to seal treaties. Rulers paid invaders with it. Gold bracelets, gem-inlaid belts, and pearl-studded crowns were not just ornamental but political tools. Among ordinary people, jewelry was also a portable form of economic wealth, especially for women. A bride's dowry might include coin bracelets or rings that were both decoration and emergency savings. If needed, she could sell jewelry to survive famine, fund travel, or pay debts. In this way, ancient jewelry became the first global brand, recognized across borders, adaptable to local tastes, yet always conveying the same message: a practical and versatile form of wealth. This message was, "This is precious, and I am connected to the forces that made it so." From caravans to caravels, jewelry traveled with humanity, part ornament, part passport, part promise. While jewelry often marked status and divinity, it also became one of the oldest symbols of love, commitment, and memory. Long before diamond engagement rings, humans used beads, rings, and bangles to mark romantic and sacred relationships. In ancient Egypt, rings weren't just gifts, they were contracts. The circle symbolizes eternity. Couples exchanged rings made of woven reeds, ivory, or gold, often worn on the third finger of the left hand, a tradition based on the belief that this finger had a vein directly connected to the heart, later called the vein of love. In ancient Rome, betrothal rings called annuli were made of iron, symbolizing strength and permanence. Some rings were engraved with portraits of the couple or clasped hands, a design known as fee, which continued into medieval Europe and beyond. These rings were more than tokens. They were legal documents tied to dowries, inheritances, and children's legitimacy. Other cultures marked romantic bonds with bracelets, necklaces, or matching amulets worn in pairs. Some tribal societies exchanged talismans made from bone, teeth, or carved wood, believed to maintain a spiritual connection, regardless of the distance between them. Jewelry also played a significant role in wedding ceremonies. In India, brides were traditionally adorned with intricate gold jewelry, such as nose rings, anklets, bangles, and hairpieces, that held both beauty and profound spiritual significance. Each piece symbolized prosperity, protection, and fertility. The Mangal Sutra, a black beaded necklace tied by the groom during the wedding, became a symbol of marital status, much like a Western wedding ring. Across cultures, jewelry often carried secret messages of love and devotion. In Renaissance Europe, posy rings were engraved with romantic verses or hidden phrases, visible only to the couple, creating a unique bond. Some contained tiny compartments holding miniature portraits, locks of hair, or perfume, turning jewelry into a tangible archive of emotion. A small, precious relic of memory, intention, and bond. It was the physical form of something invisible. Trust, devotion, and connection, worn close to the skin, kissed in moments of longing, and passed down through generations. Long before vows were written, they were etched in metal and worn with pride. Throughout ancient history, jewelry did more than decorate, connected the wearer to the divine. Adornments were charged with spiritual significance, used to invoke blessings, ward off evil, and mark sacred roles. A necklace was rarely just a necklace. Could be a prayer, a barrier, or a silent dialogue with the gods. In ancient Mesopotamia, priests and priestesses wore elaborate chest pieces and headpieces during rituals. These weren't mere accessories. They were spiritual uniforms designed to reflect celestial bodies or mythological creatures. One bead might represent a planet. A clasp might symbolize a god's weapon. Jewelry physically embodied cosmic order. Egypt took this further. High priests wore jewelry meant to channel divine power. The Manat necklace, worn by priestesses of Hathor, was more than decorative. It was believed to bring fertility and favor from the gods, often shaken like a rattle during ceremonies to please the goddess. The famous uraeus collar, seen in many Egyptian artworks, symbolized the sun god Ra. Its curve echoed the sun's path across the sky. In ancient India, jewelry also played an important spiritual role in Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Earrings, bangles, and anklets were thought to stimulate energy points in the body, aligning chakras and enhancing spiritual well-being. Gold was associated with purity and immortality, reserved for deities and sacred rituals. Statues of gods were adorned with delicate gold jewelry, reflecting the belief that the divine deserved earthly riches. In the Americas, the Maya and Aztecs valued jade far more than gold. Jade symbolizes life force, breath, and divine energy. Priests wore jade pendants shaped like gods, and rulers were buried with jade in their mouths to help their soul's journey to the afterlife. Even early Christianity used jewelry as a form of protection. Amulets and medallions inscribed with crosses or images of saints were believed to ward off plague, demons, and temptation. Jewelry wasn't just about faith, it was about protection. From humble farmers to high priests, spiritual jewelry expressed a universal human desire for safety, favor, and meaning beyond the physical world. A sacred shimmer, a divine thread, jewelry carried the heavens not in the sky but around the neck. As civilizations rose and fell, their jewelry endured, buried in tombs, hidden in ruins, or handed down through generations. What began as simple beads on strings evolved into powerful vessels of memory and identity, sometimes the only clues left behind, creating a sense of continuity and connection to the past. At burial sites from Scandinavia to Nubia, jewelry offers intimate insights into the deceased. A brooch can reveal cultural origins. A ring might indicate marital status. Necklaces made of diverse materials hint at long-distance trade or migration. Even how jewelry was worn, layered, tied in hair, or hidden beneath clothes, tells us how people saw themselves and wished to be remembered. These items were meant to outlast their wearers. Passed down as heirlooms, they became tokens of continuity in changing times. Her daughter might wear a mother's pendant at her wedding, a warrior's ring buried with his son. Jewelry formed a bridge between past and present, often more durable than stories, more personal than monuments. In times of exile or crisis, jewelry also preserved identity. When cities fell or people were forced to move, they could only carry what fits in their hands. Jewelry served as both portable wealth and emotional anchor. A simple bangle might mean more than a lost home, symbolizing resilience and strength in the face of adversity. Materials themselves aged well. Gold doesn't rust, gems don't decay. Unlike textiles or food offerings, jewelry could survive for thousands of years. By preserving jewelry, humans preserved more than just precious metals. They preserved their very essence. You can almost sense the pride, love, rituals, and pain in every scratch, clasp, and missing stone. Even today, we continue these ancient traditions. We inherit wedding rings, wear necklaces with initials, and keep lockets close to our hearts. We store jewelry not just for its value, but for the memories and people it represents. So, when we study ancient jewelry, we're not just looking at fashion or metalwork. We're exploring a deep human longing to be seen, protected, to belong, and ultimately to be remembered. This longing, deeply embedded in the history of jewelry, is what makes these artifacts more than just decorative items. Wrapped in gold, strung on shells, and cast in bronze, the story of jewelry is the story of humanity itself. Durable, personal, and eternal. Beneath the quiet wheat fields and calm roads of northern France lies a secret few expect. A massive underground city carved into soft chalk. Just outside the village of Nouers near the Somme River is one of Europe's most extraordinary archaeological mysteries. This city, with its hidden chambers and secret passages, is not only a historical marvel but also a treasure trove of ancient artifacts, including jewelry that offers insights into the lives of its inhabitants. This vast subterranean maze stretches over 3 kilometers, with more than 300 rooms. Descend just 33 meters below, and the rural landscape disappears, replaced by a ghostly city carved from stone. The walls bear the marks of centuries, with intricate carvings and inscriptions that tell the story of its inhabitants. From a small, nearly hidden entrance on a wooded slope, the cool air inside welcomes you. The tunnels widen and twist, opening into hidden chambers, stables, kitchens, and even a chapel. Some rooms connect through long corridors with low ceilings. Others end abruptly, perhaps used for storage or more secret purposes. Feels less like a cave and more like an underground village. What's most intriguing about Nouers isn't just its vastness. It's the enigma surrounding its creation. The silence about its origins is deafening. There's no clear record of why or when Nouers was built. Scholars estimate it was carved sometime during the Middle Ages, likely between the 9th and 13th centuries. But was it a refuge, a monastic retreat, or something else? The walls remained silent, shrouding the city in a veil of mystery, inviting us to unravel its secrets. One popular theory suggests local monks or villagers dug the tunnels to escape Viking raids or invasions during the 100 Years' War. It makes sense. The soft chalk is easy to dig, and the tunnels are cleverly ventilated, allowing fires without suffocating those inside. The underground city was nearly invisible from above, making it a perfect hideout. Over time, Nowers evolved. Wells were dug, smoke vents disguised in tree trunks, and horses stabled deep underground, far from enemy eyes. Despite its remarkable engineering, Nowers faded from memory until rediscovered in the 19th century by a priest and amateur archaeologist. And that was just the beginning. What started as a medieval refuge later became a sanctuary, a curiosity, and even a canvas for soldiers during one of history's bloodiest wars. But down here, surrounded by carved stone walls, one thing is sure: Nowers wasn't built out of fear. It was built to last. Walking through Nowers is like stepping into a blueprint of a hidden civilization. The chalk walls, cool and smooth, tell a story of centuries of careful carving, done entirely by hand, one swing of a pickaxe at a time. There are no traces of machinery or rushed digging. Instead, there's clear precision, purpose, and layers of human effort. Generations shaped this underground refuge with their ingenuity. The soft chalk made digging easier than more complex rock. But the real challenge was engineering. How do you build a multi-level underground city without it collapsing? How do you ventilate it without anyone above noticing? The people of Nowers solved these problems brilliantly, showcasing their remarkable ingenuity and resourcefulness. The rooms follow an innovative design. Small living quarters could be warmed by body heat or fire. Storage rooms kept food cool for months. Communal halls suggest an organized society beneath the surface. Entire sections were dedicated to animals, especially horses, implying that people planned to live underground for weeks or longer. The most striking are the ventilation shafts. Dozens run from deep below to the surface, hidden among trees and brush. Some are disguised with plants or debris to avoid detection. These shafts provided airflow, allowing inhabitants to cook, breathe, and live in secret. Smoke drifted away unnoticed, disappearing into the forest canopy. Evidence suggests that Nowers likely took centuries to build, expanding gradually as needed. There's no sign of forced labor or hurried construction. It was a community effort that was maintained and improved across generations. This wasn't a military fortress or a castle built by order. It was born from necessity, cooperation, and quiet innovation. The craftsmanship isn't lavish but is highly efficient. Rounded doorways, reinforced ceilings, and smooth walls show attention to detail and durability. Even without decoration, there's beauty in the geometry, repetition, and sheer human will behind the project, inviting us to appreciate the ingenuity and skill of its creators. That may be why Nowers endures. It wasn't just carved from chalk. It was built with a vision, a purpose, and a determination that transcends time, leaving us in awe of the enduring spirit of the people who created it and inspiring us with their resilience and resourcefulness. By preserving jewelry, humans preserved more than just precious metals. They preserved their very essence. You can almost sense the pride, love, rituals, and pain in every scratch, clasp, and missing stone. Even today, we continue these ancient traditions. We inherit wedding rings, wear necklaces with initials, and keep lockets close to our hearts. We store jewelry not just for its value, but for the memories and people it represents. So, when we study ancient jewelry, we're not just looking at fashion or metalwork. We're exploring a deep human longing to be seen, protected, to belong, and ultimately to be remembered. This longing, etched into every piece of jewelry, resonates with us today as we continue these ancient traditions. Wrapped in gold, strung on shells, and cast in bronze, the story of jewelry is the story of humanity itself. Durable, personal, and eternal. Beneath the quiet wheat fields and calm roads of northern France lies a secret few expect. A massive underground city carved into soft chalk. Just outside the village of Nawers near the Somme River is one of Europe's most extraordinary archaeological mysteries. This subterranean city, with its hidden chambers and secret passages, is not only a historical marvel but also a treasure trove of ancient artifacts, including jewelry that offers a unique insight into the lives of its inhabitants. This vast subterranean maze stretches over 3 kilometers, with more than 300 rooms. Descend just 33 meters below, and the rural landscape disappears, replaced by a ghostly city carved from stone. The walls, cool and smooth to the touch, bear the marks of centuries of careful carving. From a small, nearly hidden entrance on a wooded slope, the cool air inside welcomes you. The tunnels widen and twist, opening into hidden chambers, stables, kitchens, and even a chapel. Some rooms connect through long corridors with low ceilings. Others end abruptly, perhaps used for storage or more secret purposes. Feels less like a cave and more like an underground village. What's most intriguing about Nawers isn't just its vastness. It's the enigma surrounding its beginnings. The silence about its origins is deafening. There's no clear record of why or when Nawers was built. Scholars estimate it was carved sometime during the Middle Ages, likely between the 9th and 13th centuries. But was it a refuge, a monastic retreat, or something else? The walls remain silent, leaving us with a captivating mystery to ponder. One popular theory suggests local monks or villagers dug the tunnels to escape Viking raids or invasions during the 100 Years' War. It makes sense. The soft chalk is easy to dig, and the tunnels are cleverly ventilated, allowing fires without suffocating those inside. The underground city was nearly invisible from above, making it a perfect hideout. Over time, Nawers evolved. Wells were dug, smoke vents disguised in tree trunks, and horses stabled deep underground, far from enemy eyes. Despite its remarkable engineering, Nawers faded from memory until rediscovered in the 19th century by a priest and amateur archaeologist. And that was just the beginning. What started as a medieval refuge later became a sanctuary, a curiosity, and even a canvas for soldiers during one of history's bloodiest wars. But down here, surrounded by carved stone walls, one thing is sure: Nawers wasn't built out of fear. It was built to last. Walking through Nawers is like stepping into a blueprint of a hidden civilization. The chalk walls, cool and smooth, tell a story of centuries of careful carving, done entirely by hand, one swing of a pickaxe at a time. There are no traces of machinery or rushed digging. Instead, there's clear precision, purpose, and layers of human effort. Generations shaped this underground refuge. The soft chalk made digging easier than more complex rock. But the real challenge was engineering. How do you build a multi-level underground city without it collapsing? How do you ventilate it without anyone above noticing? The people of Nawers solved these problems brilliantly. The rooms follow an innovative design. Small living quarters could be warmed by body heat or fire. Storage rooms kept food cool for months. Communal halls suggest an organized society beneath the surface. Entire sections were dedicated to animals, especially horses, implying that people planned to live underground for weeks or longer. The most striking are the ventilation shafts. Dozens run from deep below to the surface, hidden among trees and brush. Some are disguised with plants or debris to avoid detection. These shafts provided airflow, allowing inhabitants to cook, breathe, and live in secret. Smoke drifted away unnoticed, disappearing into the forest canopy. Evidence suggests that Nowers likely took centuries to build, expanding gradually as needed. There's no sign of forced labor or hurried construction. It was a community effort that was maintained and improved across generations. This wasn't a military fortress or a castle built by order. It was born from necessity, cooperation, and quiet innovation, a testament to the human spirit and ingenuity that is truly admirable. The craftsmanship isn't lavish but is highly efficient. Rounded doorways, reinforced ceilings, and smooth walls show attention to detail and durability. Even without decoration, there's beauty in the geometry, repetition, and sheer human will behind the project. That may be why Nowers endures. It wasn't just carved from chalk. It was a testament to human resilience, a monument to the enduring spirit of humanity that continues to inspire awe in all who encounter it. Nowers, a testament to human resilience, was carved from a deep human need to protect, preserve, and prepare for hard times. Although no clear records name the original builders, history suggests that monks were likely among the first to inhabit the area. During the Middle Ages, northern France faced numerous invasions, from the Vikings to conflicts such as the 100 Years' War. Monastic communities often stood on the front lines of these dangers and sometimes carved sanctuaries beneath their chapels. Nowers, with its remote location and vast underground spaces, is well suited to this idea. Clues in its layout support this theory. Among the hundreds of rooms is a central chapel with a simple altar and an arched ceiling. Though plain, the chapel held spiritual importance. It was designed for worship, with space for a small congregation and faint wall markings that might have been verses or symbols, now lost to time. This wasn't just a storage room or bunker. It was a true sanctuary, a testament to the strength of the community. The monks may have begun carving Nowers, but over time, others sought shelter there. As wars swept through the region, local villagers and peasants used the tunnels as a refuge. Entire families are believed to have hidden underground during sieges or raids, especially when mercenaries or foreign armies passed through Picardy. Local stories say Nowers could shelter up to 3,000 people at once. This wasn't merely a hideout. It was a hidden community living in complete silence beneath enemy feet. Imagine dark corridors filled with whispered voices, the scent of smoke, soft clinks of pots and tools, and the occasional cry of a child, life unfolding beneath the surface while danger loomed above. Yet despite the fear, Nowers offered more than safety. It offered dignity. People weren't packed into caves like animals. They had rooms, hallways, and space to breathe, pray, and wait. There were rules, organization, and a hierarchy. Who got which room? Who kept watch on ventilation shafts? Who rationed food? We don't know, but the design suggests a structured society, not chaos. In many ways, Nowers was more than a shelter. It was a parallel society, quiet, hidden, and self-sufficient. Built out of necessity, it kept communities alive without anyone above knowing they were there. For centuries, Nowers served its purpose, protecting monks, villagers, and perhaps entire generations from wars and raids. Then, just as mysteriously as it was carved, it faded from memory, leaving behind a compelling historical mystery. By the 18th century, few nearby knew it existed. The entrance was overgrown, and stories faded. The city wasn't buried by earth but by time. How does a city disappear? Slowly, piece by piece. As peace returned to northern France, the need for underground refuge lessened. People returned to farms and fields, families put down roots above ground, and oral histories grew thin. Eventually, no one remembered to tell their children that beneath their feet lay a whole city carved from chalk. There's no record of Nowers' use during the Napoleonic Wars or the French Revolution. Throughout the 19th century, it remained mainly a local legend, a story for children, a tale of hidden rooms and ghostly monks. Then, in the 1880s, curiosity brought Nowers back to light. A Catholic priest named Father Ernest Danicourt had a hobby in archaeology. He'd heard rumors. A shepherd boy said the ground sounded hollow beneath his feet. Locals thought the boy was crazy, but Danicourt investigated. He cleared away brush and debris from a strange dip in the land. What he found stunned even skeptics. Deep underground, by lantern light and ropes, he uncovered hundreds of rooms, each more elaborate than the last. He was likely the first person in 150 years to walk those halls. He cleaned, mapped, and documented the site, eventually opening it to visitors. People marveled at how something so massive could be hidden in plain sight. Still, even Danicourt never fully understood Naur's origins. The medieval dates were only guesses. The purpose of some rooms remained a mystery. Why were some passages sealed? Who carved the narrowest tunnels? The more he uncovered, the more questions the chalky walls raised. Naurs had returned, but as a puzzle, a hauntingly empty stage waiting for its story to be told. Just a few decades after Danicourt's rediscovery, the peaceful fields of Picardy were shattered by a new horror, the First World War. Trench warfare turned northern France into a brutal maze of mud, barbed wire, and artillery craters. While the war raged above ground, something remarkable was happening below. Naurs once again became a secret sanctuary. Soldiers from France, Britain, Australia, and Canada passed through the area during the Somme offensive, one of the deadliest battles of World War I. Many ended up near the village of Naurs, and some were brought underground, maybe for shelter, curiosity, or to find a moment of quiet away from the constant noise of battle. But these soldiers didn't just pass through, they left their marks. On the soft chalk walls of Naurs, there are over 2,000 inscriptions carved by soldiers. These inscriptions, including names, ranks, regiments, dates, and even hometowns, are not just random carvings. They are a testament to the human experience of war, a way for these soldiers to leave a mark and be remembered. It became an underground guestbook, a human time capsule etched in stone. Some carvings are detailed with military insignia. Others are simple, like Tom, 1916, or J. Carter, 14th Battalion. This wasn't vandalism. It was a testament to the resilience of these men, written by soldiers who might never return home. Australian soldiers, the most common group recorded, made many inscriptions from the Australian Imperial Force. Historians believe these soldiers were brought to Naurs for short rest breaks or reconnaissance. The tunnels may have reminded them of home, like the Jenolan Caves in New South Wales, or maybe they were just amazed to escape the horrors of the trenches and step into an ancient underground city. Some carved dates just days before the Somme battle started in July 1916. Many of those men never returned to Australia, England, or Canada, but their writing remains. Their presence lingers in the quiet corridors, not as ghosts, but as echoes. Recently, researchers have utilized these inscriptions to trace family histories and reconnect descendants with soldiers who were lost in the war. What was once a forgotten refuge became a living memorial, not with statues or ceremonies, but with handwriting scratched in stone by men facing death. In the silence below, their words whisper, "I was here. I mattered. Don't forget me." What makes Naurs so haunting isn't just its size or mystery. It's the graffiti. Thousands of inscriptions were carved by World War I soldiers. Young men trapped in a war that destroyed everyday life. These weren't random scribbles or careless doodles. They were careful, deliberate, and deeply human. A name carved into stone is a voice refusing to disappear. Over 2,000 inscriptions have been catalogued, most listing names, ranks, battalion numbers, and dates. Some are very precise, like Pinch Kelly, 3rd Battalion, AIF, March 1916. Others are cryptic, initials, a year, or a single word like home or peace. Each one is a testament to the human spirit in the face of war. The chalk walls became a canvas for memory. Each letter was scratched with the same focus these men gave their rifles. Soldiers often carved their names in groups, men from the same battalion side by side. In one tunnel, Australian soldiers from the 1st and 2nd Divisions covered entire walls, creating unofficial regimental memorials. It wasn't about pride. It was about being remembered. In the chaos of war, leaving a mark was a quiet act of defiance against death's oblivion. These men, facing the possibility of never returning home, carved their names and messages as a plea to be remembered, not to be lost in the annals of war. Some went further, carving hometowns like Sydney, Perth, or Manchester. They etched crosses, kangaroos, and military insignia. A few wrote short messages. One said, "Goodbye, France." Another, "Still alive." Many dates come from 1916, just weeks or days before the Battle of the Somme, where tens of thousands would die within hours. The peaceful carvings so close to such horror make hours feel like a moment frozen in time, a breath held before the storm. Today, these inscriptions are vital for military historians and genealogists. Names once lost are now being linked to families. Some descendants visit the tunnels, tracing the letters with their fingers, knowing that their grandfather or great-uncle stood, laughed, and perhaps cried here before returning to war. Their visits and the stories they share play a crucial role in preserving the memory of these soldiers and the significance of their inscriptions. Naurs is no longer just an archaeological site. It has become a cultural hub. It's a living document, carved not on paper but in stone. A place where voices from the past still linger, refusing to be forgotten. After the Great War, Naurs fell silent again. The soldiers were gone, many never to return. The underground city returned to its quiet, chalky darkness. Over time, the carved names faded under dust, soot, and moisture. The tunnels became a curiosity again, sometimes visited but mostly forgotten by history. Peace has a way of burying things. In the decades that followed, the site received occasional attention. It reopened to the public during the interwar years and again after World War II. Tourism brochures in the 1950s and 60s described Naurs as a quaint medieval oddity, but few truly understood what they were seeing. Most visitors wandered the dim tunnels, unaware they were brushing past thousands of soldiers' names etched quietly into the walls. Over time, the site suffered from neglect and damage. Harsh lighting scorched the fragile chalk walls. Modern graffiti appeared, sometimes alongside century-old carvings. Dust, mold, and vibrations from visitors slowly wore down parts of the tunnels. Meanwhile, the actual historical significance of Naurs remained hidden beneath souvenir shops and superficial tourist stories. The soldier inscriptions were there, hiding in plain sight, but no one noticed. It wasn't until 2014, almost 100 years after World War I, that Naurs found its voice again. A French archaeologist named Gilles Priolo, while doing a routine survey, discovered the vast extent of the soldier graffiti. What he uncovered was far more than a few random names. It was a massive, undocumented war archive carved by hand into the walls. Priolo realized Naurs wasn't just a medieval refuge or tourist spot. It was a time capsule, a spiritual annex to the war. This discovery reignited interest. Conservation efforts began, digital scans were created, and the graffiti was carefully cataloged for research purposes. Families from places like Australia and Canada came to see the signatures of ancestors who never returned home. Still, the silence of nearly a century lingered. The greatest tragedy wasn't that soldiers carved their names into stone. It was that no one bothered to look for them. The 2014 rediscovery changed everything. What had been seen as a quirky underground attraction was suddenly recognized for what it was. A sacred record of interrupted lives, etched into the earth by men preparing to die. Overnight, Naurs transformed from a tourist stop into a site of international historic importance. Leading this rediscovery was Gilles Priolo, whose work began as a preservation project. But as he and his team explored deeper tunnels, they realized they were not just studying medieval architecture. They were standing inside a World War I archive inscribed on the walls themselves. The team documented over 2,000 names, many of which were from the Australian Imperial Force, carved between 1916 and 1917. Priolo described it as the largest concentration of World War I inscriptions found underground anywhere. This wasn't just a few soldiers passing through. It was a steady flow of men sheltering from war above, leaving their last thoughts in stone. The discovery sparked an international response. Researchers cross-referenced names with military records, identifying individuals, units, and the outcomes of their experiences. Families in Australia, the UK, and Canada were contacted. Some learned for the first time that their grandfathers or great-uncles had been in Naurs. Others found the names on medals and telegrams were carved in chalk halfway across the world. Meanwhile, restoration efforts accelerated. Parts of the tunnels were scanned using 3D imaging. Lighting was improved to protect the chalk. Interpretive displays were updated to reflect the site's new importance. Some inscriptions were sealed off to prevent damage. This became not just archaeology but a story of reconnection. Visitors came to touch history, to trace carved names with their fingers and, for a moment, feel the heartbeat of soldiers long gone. It wasn't only about honoring the dead. It was about listening to what they left behind. Through this, Naurs stopped being a forgotten footnote. It became what it always was, a message in the dark, patiently waiting for the world to remember. Today, Naurs is more than a marvel of medieval engineering or a war relic. It is also a testament to the enduring legacy of the past. It symbolizes resilience, human creativity, and the intimate bond between survival and silence. It doesn't stand as a monument to a single moment, but as a layered palimpsest of human history, each corridor echoing the fears, hopes, and choices of different eras. What began as a possible monastic hideaway evolved into a full refuge, then a forgotten curiosity, and finally, an accidental war memorial carved by its witnesses. In this way, Naurs defies easy classification. It's not just a historic site. It's a psychological space that has housed prayer, fear, routine, and rest over centuries. The cold chalk walls have absorbed the breaths of monks, villagers, and soldiers alike, each leaving something behind. In modern times, Naurs has become a place of reflection, especially for descendants of the World War I soldiers who carved their names. Visiting the tunnels today is not like entering a battlefield or museum. It's like stepping into a shared memory, once buried but now breathing again. You walk not just through stone but through testimony. It's also become a site of international collaboration. French and Australian historians are now collaborating to match the inscriptions with military records. School children are brought through the tunnels to experience history in the most direct and consequential way, by seeing the carvings left by soldiers unsure if they'd survive another week. Perhaps the greatest lesson Naurs teaches us is about legacy. It wasn't built for glory but out of necessity. Yet it has endured. Over time, its quiet endurance became its strength. It shows us that history isn't only told through speeches or statues. It's whispered in chalk, hidden in shadowy corners, patiently waiting for someone to remember. Naurs doesn't shout. It's not loud, but it lasts. And in doing so, it speaks to the deep human urge to carve meaning into the places we fear most, and to leave behind a simple message. We were here. We mattered.